If you're an artist trying to promote your music with Facebook and Instagram ads, this new Andromeda update might destroy your whole strategy unless you pivot fast. My name's Chris, also known as the artist Manafest. I have about 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars marketing my music on Facebook and Instagram. And so when I saw this update, I thought, okay, we need to do a video because it's kind of crazy, but it's not as bad as you think. So what is this update? Well, number one is it overhauls the ad delivery and It overhauls the ad delivery with AI-driven retrieval. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, Andromeda replaces the old rule based on audience targeting, right? That was the engine, all based on audience targeting. Maybe you liked a certain band. Maybe you liked Spotify. Maybe you liked Starbucks. Maybe you liked, fishing or whatnot. But when it came to us as artists and musicians, most of the time I always targeted bands or certain artists. If they were similar to me, that's who I targeted. And I remember even years ago, they removed a whole bunch of Christian artists and all of a sudden you couldn't target them. I couldn't even target myself. There's a time where I could target Manafest because we had, I think over 1 million plus followers. So I could target myself and even retarget and do lookalikes and all that. And so this has been changing for a while. And to be honest, a lot of these audiences have slowly gone down and now they've replaced it with broad audience targeting. But I got to be honest, even years ago, we were just doing no targeting. Like for my free plus shipping, where I would say, hey, my CD is free and you just cover shipping and handling. That was one of the ads where we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on. We would just target the United States and we would allow Facebook's Pixel, aka their artist intelligence, right? Their artificial intelligence just find ads for us. So now with this update, instead of the narrow demographic or interest-based segments, the system prioritizes which creative ad works best for which user based on their behavior, based on the context and the subtle little interest cues. And so based on my behavior, I'm going to be served certain ads. Based on your scrolling behavior, your liking, what you're watching, what you're viewing, right? What content you're consuming, it's going to serve you those ads, right? And what's really interesting is the old way of dozens of micro ad sets and minor little tweaks to per creative is being replaced by broader targeting. Okay, so the idea is that we can reach more people, and based on your ad and how good your ad is and how people are responding and who's responding, Facebook will pivot and be like, okay, these types of people are responding to this person's ad and actually clicking on it. So we're going to just target the ad to them and only show it to them. And so instead of you trying to just narrow down and you think you're smarter than Facebook, I think I'm smarter with Facebook and I'm like, yeah, this is who likes my music. Facebook's like, no. We've got all the data. We've got all the intelligence, right? Of all the little millions of little data points, we know who best to serve your ad to than you are. And you might have been missing out on millions of people because you were too niched down where you could have had this way broader, bigger audience, right? And when you think about we're trying to be discovered, we want our music to be heard. Right? And we want it to be heard by as many people as possible. At least I do, right? And so do we want to start with a little sniper or do we want to go broad? Well, we want to go broad. We want to go as big. We want to reach as many people as we can. And just because I targeted rock music doesn't mean that people who like hip hop don't like my music. Certain people who like folk might like my rock music. And same thing with you. And so the more broader we go, we're allowing, the people to decide based on their behavior as opposed to you deciding or me deciding. Let's let the AI decide. So it says here that ads now need to match real human behavior, not broad categories. Andromeda looks at what users do, the videos watched, searches, timing, to infer intent and context. That means ads should speak to different pain points, interests, awareness levels to truly resonate. Well, for us as music creators, what I've realized is the ad does the heavy lifting. Okay, the music does the heavy lifting, and we belong on Facebook and Instagram. What I told my students on the Spotify challenge is that when you're hanging out at a campfire, when you're eating food with your friends, when you're having a social experience, hanging out with friends, whether that's a restaurant, a movie, what is always in the background? Music. What are you probably talking about, or what's the latest song you're listening to? Music is always there because that's normally 90% of the time part of the social experience. When we talk about social media, we're taking the social experience online, and so music belongs there as well. So your ad belongs there. But you want to make sure when you're promoting and marketing your music that it doesn't feel like an ad. It doesn't look like an ad. You want it to look raw, look real. And that's why sometimes just stuff shot with a phone, not necessarily all this polished looking, but just kind of like that rawness, people connect to that more because it's like, oh, like I'm going to see what my friends are doing or what the latest news is. And I see this kind of like raw, someone performing, singing. And it's right at the hook. It's right at the catchiest part of the melody. It's like, oh, wow, I want to click on that. And so when you're making your ads, like the problem is not this Andromeda update. The problem is that, your ad might not be strong enough or you're not testing enough different parts of the ad. Like we don't know what part of the ad is the strongest yet in your song. Could be the chorus, could be the middle of the chorus, could be the bridge, could be the beginning of the verse or the middle, it could be the second verse. We don't know, and that's why you got to test a lot more ads. So like when I teach this in my playlist profit strategy, when we set up ads, we do this thing called the 2-2-2 method, where we're setting multiple ads up at a time, and we put a little bit of budget to all of them to see which one are the winners. Right? And again, this is what the update says here. It says underperforming old strategies can hurt. Small budgets and minor tweaks may no longer work, right? Like you're trying all these small, like tons and tons of ads, right? But you're doing such small little budgets and they're all inside one campaign, and some ads aren't even getting any, they're not getting any of the budget. And so that's why you need to break them out into different campaigns and test to force the budget to spend on that ad. And then you look at the data and you see, oh, okay, that one was the cheapest one. That's the one that we need to focus on. You know what I mean? And that's the one we need to scale and put all the budget. But I'll tell you, for a lot of artists, man, you're not testing nearly enough ads, right? You got to test way more ad creatives. You got to test different parts. And I'm talking about like different visuals, different performances, whether that's, and you want movement. You got to think like, when you see someone like scrolling, right? Maybe they're at an airport, maybe they're on the train, maybe you're watching them on a plane, right? Or maybe it's your spouse, and you see someone scrolling, and then all of a sudden they stop. It makes you wonder, what made them stop? What ad was so good that grabbed them by the jugular and pulled them in and said, you got to watch this? That's the type of ad you want to create, okay? If you don't have my book, Playlist Profits, that talks about ad strategy, how to grow a playlist, how to grow and monetize your streams, I break down the whole 2-2-2 method. The audiobook is free on Audible. You can just get a free trial with Audible, and then you can cancel within 7 days, and you get to keep the audiobook as well. I'll put the link below, or just grab the physical book or ebook. But get in the game, man. Test stuff. Get your hands dirty with setting ads. Yeah, we teach ads, but I don't always recommend outsourcing that stuff, man. You want to be in control, and by this Andromeda update just made it easier, because now there's less targeting, and that's what they're trying to do, right? Like they're trying to make it so easy for you to get results and for me to get results that you can just set up ads quickly, because they want you to spend money. Right? They want it easy. They don't want it difficult and tricky. They want it so simple that you can spend money, but that you can get results as well too. And this is why you got to be careful on the way you set up ads. Like the way I set up ads, we always use software. Okay, we use Hyped It. All right, there's tons of them out there, but I like Hyped It because I don't just send people to a playlist and they just click. We make sure there's a software in between that not only did someone click on the ad, but they actually pressed play. You see, how you might be running ads is you're just running link clicks, right? Where, and you're getting all these people clicking on your ad, but they might not have Spotify, they might not have Apple Music or wherever you're sending them to. So Facebook isn't even optimizing for the right conversion. And the conversion is a play, someone pressing play. The reason I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars marketing my music with free plus shipping funnels and stuff like that is because when someone bought, they would land on the next page, and there was Facebook's pixel, which is a piece of code that is on that page that tells Facebook that someone purchased my CD, right? And so what does Facebook do with that data? Well, then when it knows there's a conversion, whether it's a purchase or someone pressing play and actually listening to your song, that sends data back to Facebook. So it's like, oh, okay, let's go and find you more people like that. And that's what we call optimizing. So Facebook optimizes for that type of conversion. You know, you might have heard of view content or whatnot. There's a lot of different ones, right? But I optimize for engagement clicks, which is plays, or I optimize for purchases. That's my favorite. Okay, some of you optimize for, name and email addresses for leads. Again, that's a conversion ad, right? But I don't really like just running ads, giving away my music for free in exchange for a name or email, unless it's a pre-save. We'll do that sometimes, but my favorite is doing it for buyers, because I don't want an email list of just people who got my music for free. I want a list of people who actually, spent money with me, right? Both are great, but if you had a choice, what would you rather have? A whole email list of people who downloaded your music for free, or a massive list of people who spent money with you and actually paid for your music, right? Even if it was just the shipping and handling. So you want to think about your strategy and what works the best. I encourage you to come to our Spotify 5-day challenge where you can ask questions, you can get more support or help, or just get that free copy of that Playlist Profits audiobook. Either way, don't worry about this Andromeda update, okay? It's totally fine. It's only going to get better because they wanted a better experience for the users so that they're getting served the right ads. And Facebook, aka Meta, wants it better for advertisers to make it easier for you with your targeting. So you're not wasting all this time trying to figure it out. And that's what a lot of you are doing. You're wasting all this time on targeting and stuff like that. That doesn't matter now as much. And now you can focus on what really matters, which is the ad creative.